This is going to be part one of working on the F-150 97 with a 4.6 liter V8. The first video, I'm going to be changing the ignition coils and the spark plugs. I said in the other video, I kind of explained, the first video is like an overview of everything I'm going to be doing, but I'm going to get the engine hot and I'm going to spray penetrating fluid and the spark plugs because on 4.6 liter Ford engines, they're notorious for having the spark plugs break off in the block. You have to get a special extraction tool and all of this. But so I'm gonna get the engine hot, spray penetrating fluid. While I'm taking the ignition coils off and replacing those, I'm gonna be letting the penetrating fluid set, and then I'm gonna try to remove them and change the spark plugs. So let's get into it. To get to this ignition coil, you gotta remove this air box right here. Pretty much just gonna flip this up. I think I've never done this before, so bear with me if I'm not doing something right. So clip that up and probably loosen this hose clamp right here. Hello, Mr. Wasp. Please don't sting me. I turned my camera off for a minute because I was struggling with getting this connector out of the ignition coil. This actually broke off the back of the ignition coil, and I think I found out why we were having problems. The connector in the center was sort of, it was broken. I mean, it was making a connection, but it was broken. And what I had to do is just kind of move it, snap it off of that. This is the connector that was on that. And there's these tabs. Well, long story short, see the corrosion and stuff, everything was stuck together. So I ended up having to get two flatheads and pry these wings out and then pull this out with some pliers. You know, not the way I would have liked it done. I would like for it to have just came out, but unfortunately it didn't go like that. Next, we'll unplug these one at a time and plug them onto the new coil pack, or ignition coil, whatever you want to call it. And so I don't screw this up, I'm just gonna write 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that way I know if I mess around and unplug this one and this one, and then I forget in which order I unplug them, because I don't think there's enough room, the way these wires are zip tied and ran. I don't think there's enough room for me to kind of get both in there. So I'm gonna just unplug all of them and then plug them all into the new one, which I have down here sort of rested on the coolant line. Well guys, I didn't record me pulling these boots off because you can't see anything. You can't even see where the spark plugs are on the camera. So maybe on the other side you'll be able to. There's a lot of stuff on this side. There's not as much on the other. But you can see that boot right there. That boot right there. That boot right there. And that boot right there. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to film me doing this because you won't be seeing anything but me with some tools. I'm going to... And also, I said I was going to do this with the engine hot. I've never done this before on this truck, obviously, because I just got it not long ago. But I saw online, or I heard online, read online, people were doing this with the engine hot. If you can do that, more power to you. There's not enough room in here hardly to get my hand just to pull the boot off without disassembling a bunch of stuff. And I didn't feel comfortable getting the engine hot. Didn't feel like burning myself today. I got the boots off though. Hopefully, the penetrating oil will do its job and I won't break a spark plug. But hopefully in the next 15 minutes you'll see me smiling with the plugs back on. I will let you know. Got them out and they actually came out pretty easily. I used an impact wrench, battery powered 18 volt, and I just, you know how impacts wrench clack 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 clack. Well, I did slowly, like cluck, 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 like that. I didn't go full force or nothing like that. And they all came right out. Look how wore out these things are, man. These things have not been changed a long time. Here is a new one. Just for like reference. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Look at the difference in the gap there. This truck's going to be like a completely different truck now. I guarantee it. All four of these burned evenly. And all four of these are at 90 thousandths. This one, the new one for Ford spec, is 52 to 53 thousandths. My eyes aren't good enough to see 1/1000th of an inch, but it's around 52 thousandths. So 52 to 90 thousandths, that's going to make a heck of a difference. The thing should have a lot better power and get a lot better fuel economy. Since we're on this side of the engine, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put the new air filter in. No reason to buy a new one and then not use it, right? But I got all the spark plugs back in. I got them all torqued. I can't remember what I torqued them to. I think it was 156 foot-pounds or 156 inch-pounds. God, if I used foot-pounds, I would have really broke some stuff up. But it's 156 inch-pounds. That's just. Have I got a crack on my screen? No. I thought I had a crack on my lens. I was like, what the heck? But so I torqued them to about 156 inch-pounds. I got the boots plugged back on. All I've left to do is clean the sensor, plug it back in, plug it up, connect this back, see what I can do about this hose clamp, get everything clamped back together, and then we'll move to the other side. The other side, I've already noticed a problem. This hose is in the way for the radiator, so I went ahead and just disconnected it. But there's our wires and spark plugs right there. I'm probably going to do the same thing. I might show me doing one just to give you an idea of kind of what I'm doing. But I mean, you're not going to be able to see anything down in there. It's too dark and it's too cramped and all that type of stuff. So, but I might show you the process of me taking one out just so you guys get the idea. And I'm also going to change this ignition coil as well. Man, I'm excited to get this thing back running, you know, just to crank it up and see how much better it runs after doing this. It's going to be a crazy difference, I'm thinking. And this little sensor right here, I said it was the mass airflow sensor earlier. It was plugged in here. I started looking at it up close because I was going to clean it. And I said, well, that looks like a thermistor or thermocouple. And I was right. I Googled the part number here. It's just a air temperature sensor. So no need to clean this. All it senses is temperature. I just wanted to note that before you guys say, well, that's not advanced. Well, I Googled it and now I know. So I got the temperature sensor plugged back in right there. That right there is our mass airflow sensor. So I'm going to take these two screws out and that should slide out and then I'll be able to clean it. I got the cover off and you can see the sensors right there in that little circle area. I'm trying to get it as good as I can. But I looked at the sensor and I'm not sure if you guys know what like a resistor looks like, but it has like the little, it's kind of like what that looks like, but it's bigger in the center. Well, I thought that was supposed to be like that. And I started spraying it and there was a lot of dirt and debris, like I'm talking like maybe like 30 seconds of an inch caked up on that thing. And I started spraying it and I just, you know, I held the can down full speed and blew it out. And man, there was so much junk on that thing. I can't believe this was even idling good. because it ran and idled okay, you know, it was just a little vibration or whatever, but wow, that's all I gotta say. I'll get this cover back on and I'll reassemble all of this with the new air filter. This side is finished. Well, the ignition coil and the spark plug anyway. I don't know if I showed you guys in the beginning, but this was not even connected. So that thing was just sucking in all the dust. There was supposed to have been a clamp right here, but I guess it was broken or something. It just fell off, or maybe somebody was lazy and didn't put it back on. I'm guessing it's the latter. But I just had a hose clamp. I forced the thing up in there, got it up in there as good as I could, and tightened everything down. I put the new air filter in, I got this temperature sensor back in, and I got the mass airflow sensor really clean. Double checked all of the spark plugs, got those pressed on, all of those are torqued. Ignition coils, everything's pressed on, connector's good. Now it's time to move to the other side, and like I said, I just disconnected this radiator hose. It just had a clamp. I got some pliers on this side and this side, just kind of compressed that, slid the hose off, dripped a little bit of coolant out, not much, but look how rusty that is. That's not good. But luckily I know how to clean that too, and we'll make a video about it. I'll go ahead and I'll flush everything out, and hopefully it all comes out, and if I have to, I'll run cleaner through it. But anyways, next we're gonna unplug these four, unbolt this like we did before, unplug all the spark plugs, pop those out, and like I said, or like I promised, I'll show me removing one of them just so you guys get an idea of how to do it. Let's go ahead and knock this out. All right, like we did before, we'll go ahead and mark these. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that 1, 2, 3, 4 is not any kind of order of anything. It's just, I'm looking at it and 1 is on the left, 2 is on the right, 3 is on the bottom left, and 4 is on the bottom right. That 1, 2, 3, 4 has nothing to do with how the cylinders are firing or none of that type of stuff, so do not think that. It's just for me to kind of make sure I plug these things back up in the right order. Here's my setup. I have some penetrating oil, and I've already removed the boots on all 4 spark plugs. This side is going to be a pain in the butt because this is the first spark plug you can get to, and you can see I'm already out of room. I almost couldn't get the 4th boot off. I don't know how I'm going to get the spark plug out, but anyways, I'll get it out. But anyways, I got my penetrating oil and all 4 spark plugs. It's been sitting maybe 20-30 minutes now. I got my spark plug socket already on the spark plug. I have my 18-volt impact, and I pretty much just like this. Get you in camera right quick. Get you in view. Just like that. The other ones, except for one, I was able to just do the tap 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 that I was talking about, but that one was in there really good. I pretty much full speed. These things, the little impact drivers, this is not a 1/2 inch. This is just like a regular one that you use for decking screws and things like that. This thing really doesn't have that much torque, so it sounds like you're knocking the crap out of it. You're really not, though. I mean, like I say, you can hold that one in your hand just about and hold it. and it'll click and make a lot of noise like that. But anyways, let's make sure we got the spark plug out before I continue talking about how. And yep, see, there we go. There's our spark plug. I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm on the last spark plug, the one that I said I could barely even get my hand to. And I'm currently laying down. I know you can't really tell, but I'm laying down on the truck. And I have two extensions connected to a swivel. I don't know if you can see that. Two extensions connected to a swivel, connected to another extension connected to the spark plug socket. And hopefully this thing doesn't break. If it does, we're going to be in a nightmare disaster mess. I'm going to double check, make sure I have everything connected. And by connected, I mean onto the spark plug. And then I'm going to take my sweet time breaking this thing loose. If I can get it out, that's the end of the trouble. Getting it out is going to be the hard part. So let me see if I can get this thing out. If not, you're going to see me very upset in a minute. Well, I got all four of them out. I ended up having to use a 1/2-inch impact, which I really didn't like the idea of, because more power equals more chance to snap one of these spark plugs. But in my mind, with all those extra extensions and the swivel, it would reduce the torque a small amount, just enough, I would imagine, to not be able to break one of these loose, as well as it dampened all that extension stuff by the time you got down to the spark plug. This is just me thinking, I don't know, it makes sense to me. By the time you got all the way down to the spark plug, the hammer effect, the impact effect, wasn't as great. So that's why I had to upgrade to the 1/2-inch. Luckily, it didn't break anything. Now all I've got to do is put the last spark plug in, torque it, put the boot on, and we're done with this. So we got everything back together. We got this hose back on with the clamp. We got, well, you guys watched me put all that on. I got all the spark plugs torqued. I got all the boots plugged. You guys watched me do all that. Now we're ready to crank it up and see if it runs any smoother. Or it might not crank at all after I've worked on it. Let's find out. Well, I can tell that definitely made a difference. Before, when you turned the engine over and started it up, at idle, the engine would kind of, I mean, you'd feel it shaking. Like I said, it was out of balance because two cylinders weren't firing, right? But when I crank it up just now, it was smooth. It was really smooth. I can tell the difference. I haven't driven it, but I can tell it's better. And the reason I revved it up like that, not a good idea to rev your engine, especially when you first start it up. But I just kind of wanted to tell if the problem had been resolved, and it definitely has. Before, if you revved it up, you could, I mean, like I said, you could actually feel it. Now, everything's smooth. If you saw the smoke blowing out the back, that was probably from the penetrating oil that seeped down into the cylinders. That's fine. The engine doesn't smoke or anything like that. It was just penetrating fluid, and it was burning it off. The engine's good and smooth now. I think I'm going to end this video. In the next video, I'll change the oil in it, and the oil filter, obviously, and probably the fuel filter. And I'm not sure what after that. I'll tell you in the next one what I'm going to do after that. But next is oil change and oil filter, so and fuel filter. So I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys got something out of this. By the way, the reason I didn't name the truck in the title is because this stuff, like if you have a car with spark plugs, it's pretty much the same. I mean, on every vehicle I've worked on anyway, it's pretty much the same deal. You unplug the boot. Sometimes they have a bolt on them, but you unplug the boot, you pop the spark plug off, check the gap. I don't know if I showed that, but I'll show you the tools I used. How about that? That'll make more sense. I'll show you the tools after I finish talking. But you pretty much just take the boot off, take the spark plug off, check the gap, put the new spark plug in, press the boot back on. You can use grease. It's like a electrode grease or something, and you can also use anti-seize, but I figured the oil, the penetrating oil that I used would probably work good for anti-seize, because that's some good stuff. It doesn't dry up. But you can use the anti-seize if you'd like. And as far as the ignition coils or the coil packs, sometimes they're like this and they're all in sets, and sometimes they're individual. I kind of like the individual ones better that this one doesn't have. This one has the, as you saw, 4 on each side, which is for 8 cylinders. But I kind of like the individual ones because if one goes bad, you can just replace the one and you don't have to replace an entire set. And they tend to be cheaper too. I think that's all I want to talk about. But yeah, and as far as the air filter, it's pretty much the same deal. You pop the thing off, put a new air filter on. This is pretty generic, so most cars are like this. So anyways, I'm going to get into the tools that I use because I'm sure you guys might be questioning about that. Sorry for talking all over the place. It's like 105 degrees, and it's probably hotter than that in here because I don't have the fan going so I can talk and you guys can hear me. But let's go to the tools right quick. As far as the tools that I used, I pretty much just left them all sitting up here other than the penetrating fluid. Used an impact with the socket adapter for 3/8 socket. Need a light, use this light, or use a light. This is your gap checker. It tells you how many thousandths. If you're unsure about how many thousandths, you should set your spark plug. Just Google it, or your user manual will tell you as well, but it's normally quicker just to Google something. 3/8 ratchet, flathead screwdriver. You can also use a nut driver. That was for these hose clamps. I use these pliers right here for this hose clamp to take this hose off. Use lots of extensions, and like I said, it'll vary for whatever you got going on. Use the spark plug socket. Well, this is a regular socket. This is a spark plug socket. I use the spark plug socket to take them out because you know it's going to grab the spark plug and you pull it out. And I also use the spark plug socket to put them back in, but I kind of had to leave it pretty loose so that this thing won't get stuck to the spark plug and unplug from my extension. But I use this to torque them, you know, just so I could get it out easier, the socket, so it wouldn't stick. Used a swivel so I could get way back up in there, the 2.5 feet that I did. You know, sockets, whatever size you need. I don't know. This is what I used. I've got these little pliers. I had to use these to pull that pin out that broke. And I use these snips right here for something. Oh yeah, for the connector that broke. I just cut the connector in half and then pulled it out. And I used these the first time. Remember when I just explained about this is just a regular socket? Well, this thing got stuck on the first one that I did because I wasn't using my brain. It got stuck on there and I had to use these real long pliers. I like these because you see you barely are moving it up down where my hand are and it's opening a lot. And I like those because you can get way deep down in something and grab it and pull it out. So, and I also used the 1/2 inch impact, but I was kind of leery of that. I just didn't have a choice because that thing was so far back in there. I was losing my torque. I think that's all I used. And then, like I said, your spark plugs are going to be specific to your car. Your ignition coils are going to be specific to your car. Your air filter is obviously going to be. And I also used this mass airflow sensor cleaner to clean my mass airflow sensor. Hopefully I got everything in there. Okay, back to me again. Hope you guys got something out of it. Doing your own maintenance and stuff like that is not that difficult. It's pretty cheap. I'm gonna have about $200 into this, and that includes the spark plugs, ignition coils, the air filter, the cleaners, the differential fluid, brake fluid, antifreeze, power steering fluid, stuff that I bought to clean the inside of the car, oil. Like I said, it's less than 200 bucks. Even the shocks, these shocks right here, I got these things off of Rock Auto, and there was some kind of closeout deal or some kind of like overstock. If you look, a lot of the parts, like if you know in a year or something you're gonna have to do something to your car, start looking for parts. And those overstock, I think they were like $8 or $9 a piece. That's unbelievable, I know, but they were like $8 or $9 a piece. So just something to think about. If you know you're gonna need to do something, you get the parts ahead of time when they're on sale. And then not only that, but you have them, and if yours tears up, you can just change it. Anyways, enough babbling. I'm not sure how long this video is gonna be, probably too long for you to watch, or I'm gonna lose your interest is what I'm getting at. But I hope you guys got something out of it. I'm changing the oil in the next one, the fuel filter. See you guys in the next one.